Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Today I am here with Jayda Amer. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm in my last year. I'm doing a political science specialist, and I'm going to take a gap year after I graduate, hopefully get into law school and see how that goes. I used to live in the Northwest Territories.
Oh, really?
For 3 years, and when I tell people that, they think I'm like lying for some odd reason, which I don't know why people would think I'd lie about that. I feel like people constantly complain, they're like, oh, I live in this town, there's nothing to do. But it's you can drive a couple minutes away to another town. This town, it's nothing. You're in a mining town. The nearest city's Edmonton. You have to drive 15 hours to get there. A flight is so expensive.
Yeah.
So it's I think the coldest days in winter in the Northwest, in Yellowknife, because that was the city I lived in, it would get down to negative 40. So I remember as a kid, I'd wear multiple socks, boots, 3 pants, sweatpants. And in the winter, you'd have to plug your car in to warm it up, or it wouldn't start. I feel one thing that you can definitely learn is the weather here is so much better. I feel the Northwest Territories is much cooler in the sense it's you could see the northern lights. In the summer, it's just daylight all the time.
Oh, wow.
It'd be 3 a.m. and there's still light out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today I am here with episode 99 guest, Jayda Amer. Is it Amer?
Amer.
Close. Jayda Amer. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This is, as we were saying off camera, this is a long time coming, this episode. We've been trying to organize it for a while. I think that I got your form back in the summer. So
yeah, I filled it out in the summer, and then life has been very difficult. I've been sick for 2 weeks straight.
How are you feeling?
Better, but it's so funny because I got really sick last week, and I went to the doctor, and they're like, yeah, you have a viral infection. I was like, oh, okay. So I asked my props for extensions and stuff because I was sick.
Yeah.
And then I'll get the most random horrible headache, or I'll get really lightheaded. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
With school, it's so much worse.
Absolutely. Well, we're good. We're here now. The time has come. So maybe, obviously, just to start us off, maybe give the audience a bit of an introduction. What do you study? What year are you in? I know that you're at UTM, if that's right. So just tell VoV a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in my last year. I'm doing a political science specialist, and I'm going to take a gap year after I graduate.
Yeah.
And then hopefully get into law school and see how that goes. But yeah, that's about it. I'm going to Denver this summer.
Nice.
Going in May. Gonna go to a couple baseball games. But yeah, I don't know. There's actually a couple interesting things. Cause for example, I used to live the Northwest Territories.
Oh, really?
For 3 years, and when I tell people that, they think I'm lying for some odd reason, which I don't know why people would think I'd lie about that.
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because it's interesting because when I feel people constantly complain, they're like, oh, I live in this town, there's nothing to do. But it's you can drive
Yep.
a couple minutes away to another town. This town, it's nothing. You're in a mining town, the nearest city's Edmonton. You have to drive 15 hours.
Damn.
To get there. A flight is so expensive.
Yeah.
So it's worst 3 years of my life.
That's tough. What led you to Northwest Territories of all places?
So I was born in Egypt. I was born in Cairo because my parents were Egyptian. And I lived in Dubai for a little bit. And then my parents decided to move to Canada. So I lived in Pickering for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then my dad got a job up there. So we all moved.
Yeah.
Drove I don't know how long in our Dodge 2006 minivan.
Yeah, yeah.
And then after 3 years, my parents just decided to move back to Ontario.
Okay.
Which is so fair because every single person I know who lives in the Northwest Territory moves for university, and it's pretty rare that people live there long term, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Okay, so right now you're situated where exactly?
In Milton.
In Milton. Okay.
Such a lovely town.
I agree actually, because my brother played Milton all the time for hockey games. I'm from Orangeville, so I feel Orangeville and Milton is a bit bigger, but it has a similar feel,
Yeah.
Small town vibe. People kind of know each other. It's there's no huge skyscrapers like a U of T or even Mississauga where you're at. So. It's interesting, but no, I want to dive deeper into this. I had no idea you were in the Northwest Territories. My favorite thing about the Northwest Territories is their polar bear license plates. Did they have those there?
We did. We had two, and I remember we had two. We had one of my mom's car and one of my dad's car.
Yeah.
And I remember when we moved back to Ontario, we rented out this townhouse, in front of the Milton District Hospital, and our neighbor stole our fucking license plate. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you're good. We'll bleep it out, but yeah.
He stole our license plate and just ran off with it, and we never saw it again.
Damn.
But and
unfortunate.
then we had like a second one that my dad put in my brother's room that he ripped off of the wall for some odd reason. He just didn't think it was valuable enough, which is,
That's tough. Yeah, no, I saw I've never actually been able to own one, obviously not driving in Northwest Territories or living there for any, amount of time. I've never even been there. I have this huge Canadian flag behind me. I've only been to 2 provinces my whole life. So it's kind of a mess. I feel like I need to visit some places, but that's pretty cool. 3 years in Northwest Territories. Was there anything that you have taken away from your time there, and you're now back in Ontario? It's a little bit busier, probably feels a little bit faster. Is there anything about that life that you can kind of teach us here as a lesson? Is there anything you learned?
It's funny because after moving back to Ontario, right, like a couple weeks ago, that we had like that deep freeze where it was like negative 22. It is, I think, the coldest days in winter in the Northwest, like in Yellowknife, because that was the city I lived in. It used to be like a mining town.
Yeah.
It's like the capital of the Northwest Territories. It would get down to like negative 40.
Okay.
So I remember as a kid, I'd wear like multiple socks, boots, like 3 pants, sweatpants, 2 shirts, 2 hoodies, a jacket, everything. And like, I remember like when I would go to school, I'd sweat so bad. I'd like have to like rip everything off. And in the winter, you'd have to like plug your car in to like warm it up, or like it wouldn't start. So I feel like one thing that you can definitely learn is like the weather here is so much better.
Yeah.
It's so much nicer, but also I feel like the Northwest Territories is much cooler in the sense it's like you could see the northern lights, and like in the summer it's just like daylight all the time. Wow. It'd be like 3 a.m. and like there's still light out.
Damn.
So it's like never dark, which is like really nice, and it sucks that it doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say like the nature's so much nicer up there.
Oh,
like
really?
I know there's mountains and stuff there, but it's like really far north where like there's no like civilization.
Yeah.
But I would definitely go there to camp or like do something nature wise, but like tourist wise, not really.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, that slammed door, I thought that might have been a ghost. I realized there's nobody actually over there. It's the wind. My window's open and it's slammed the door shut just to make sure that, it doesn't seem like anyone's getting angry at us over here. But yeah, no, that's interesting because I was thinking about it. I was talking about it the other day about how recently, like springtime's rolling around now. U of T is getting a little bit brighter, a little bit warmer. People are feeling good. We have the quad here at Victoria College, so you see a bunch of people sitting out laughing. U of T has a reputation for being kind of a sad, place. People are so stressed with work and everything, but when the sun's out, it's a great time. But I was talking about this the other day, and I was thinking, imagine living in like Florida. Yeah. Where it's just like this mood, this sun, warm, people outside having a good time, just 365 days of the year, the whole time. But you're saying also we have it pretty good in Toronto, have it pretty good in Ontario compared to the Northwest Territories. So, you got to find a way to be grateful for the little things.
That's honestly really true. I will say like something similar to like, I guess Toronto and like the Northwest Territories is like the culture. Like for example, like a lot of our stuff up there would be like really indigenous, like it'd be revolved around that, which I think was really cool because like when you're younger you get to experience that like up front, and it was honestly like really cool. Like I remember we'd go like fishing with like indigenous elders, and like there's a couple other things that we did that like I honestly don't remember, but it makes you just like appreciate like a culture
absolutely
more, which I think is really nice because obviously like Toronto as an example, or just like Ontario and Canada is very like multicultural, but like you don't really it's I like it's not like every day where you get to like interact with like someone who's indigenous, especially we're up north, it's like they have a really high population. So.
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually an interesting point. I never thought about it like that, how like when you think about Toronto, it's like this great multicultural city, but I've actually found the same thing because I went to high school in Brampton, and our high school was like heavily either like South Asian, like Indian or African. Like there's maybe a handful of specific countries, like a lot of Cameroonian students, teachers there. And I think that that's actually a better way to take in different cultures instead of having it where it's like there's 1,000 people and 500 different cultures. It's like go to a place where that is the predominant culture, where it's like, this is mainly African. You're not going to find much else. So this is mainly Middle Eastern. You're not going to find anything else. Because for me, I think what it did, because I grew up in Orangeville, and growing up in Orangeville in the early 2010s, late 2000s, it's obviously mainly white. Now it's shifting a little bit. We have a lot of Indian immigrants coming into Brampton, and then Brampton's getting full, so they move up north, and now there's more Indian population in Orangeville. But growing up, mainly white. Like my school, my elementary school, we maybe had, like, I might be able to count the number of black kids in our whole school on two hands. It was a small school, granted. There was maybe like 140 students in the whole school. But yeah, so going to my high school, where it was mainly African, this sounds so stupid, but you take in an entire culture in a way that you just take in like a normal community of different people. Yes, there's an overarching culture, but I think what you don't necessarily recognize all the time is that there's still like hundreds of different personalities within the culture. Like you still have like the athlete stud Cameroonian kid. You still have the nerdy Cameroonian kid. You still have like all these archetypal, or these archetypes of students, these like stereotypes that we think of when we think of, let's say, a high school from your own culture. So for me, like when you think of a white school, you have like the jock, and then you have like the pretty girl who's obsessed with Instagram, whatever, right? But this stuff all just translates across cultures. It's just maybe a different overarching theme,
Yeah, I was also going to say, it's so interesting that you say you're from like Orangeville, because I have friends who like live in Acton.
Yeah.
And I'll like drive up to Acton, and I'm like, I don't know anyone who lives in Orangeville. I don't know, like, I have no idea what there is to do there. And it's actually really interesting that you say that you went to high school in Brampton, because like, is there a high school in Orangeville?
We got two high schools in Orangeville, but the reason I went to Brampton is because it was a French high school. So
okay.
We don't have any French high schools in Orangeville, but yeah, there's two in Orangeville. How many are in Milton?
Let me think.
Do you know? Is there too many to count?
See, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, we had two Catholic schools. We had one called Bishop Redding, and that was known as like the pregnancy school. Like it was known as like they had like a daycare there. Like it was just known for like teen pregnancies. Yeah. We had one called Jean Vanier until like they changed the name to it to Francis Xavier, and like that's kind of known as like the nicer Catholic school, because like the Catholic schools have so much money. Like their schools are massive. Like that school is maybe like 2 minutes from my house. It's massive. Like they have like a track like above their gym. It's insane. And then the high school I went to is like the district public high school, so it's kind of known. It was like an older school. I think it was built in like the 1900s, and like they used to have plaques of every class who graduated. So like I remember like you'd walk down the hall and you'll see like people who graduated in like 1930. Like, the most random people you don't know. But our school was kind of known to be like the druggy school. And then
every town has those.
Every town has it, and that was the school I went to. And then the last school, it was Craig Kilberger, and it's just like a nicer public school. But after I graduated, like they're starting to build like so many more like Catholic schools. They're building like I think a French high school or something. I don't know. The moment you graduate, it's like they decide to build something nicer.
Everything changes.
Like they're making my high school so much nicer. I'm like, where were these renovations when I was like 15 in high school?
Absolutely. Yeah, it happened to me. I don't remember when it was, but maybe like 2 summers ago, I think. Yeah, I came back from obviously my 8-month stint living at U of T, and then my whole it wasn't just my school, but like my whole town seemed to be renovated. Like there was different bike paths that kids can now go through, and I was like, what's going on here? I was trying to have this, growing up, and it's completely different. You barely even recognize the place you grew up, but it's interesting. That's just part of life, I guess. That's got to be the case for most people, I guess, when they grow up, because I wonder what the percentage is of people who stay living in their hometown. I guess like that's kind of a thing people talk about. Like if you're from a small town, everyone's trying to get out of it, right? Like trying to, succeed in a way so they can live somewhere else. But I don't know. I think my town's great, but over time, 30 years later, not 30 years later, but I mean like from when I was born, 30 years later, when I have kids, it's not going to be the same town that I grew up in. So I understand why people would want to move. But yeah, ODSS is the name of one of the high schools in Orangeville. You were saying that you went to the druggy school.
So I'm assuming it's Orangeville District Secondary School?
That's it, exactly, yeah. But people nickname it overdose secondary school because that's once again the drug school for us. But no, I had friends that went there. I had family that went to the other one, and yeah, it's just interesting. So for you, when you grow up, would you want to put your kids into a Catholic school as well, or maybe not? Would you have a different perspective?
It's really interesting because like my brother goes to Catholic school, not even for like religious reasons. He just wanted to go because like all of his friends were going, and it's like a nicer school. But honestly, like I'm not very like I guess like picky. Like public school. I mean, either way, it's like still like public, you know.
Yeah.
I just think it like because I don't know where I'm gonna end up.
Yeah.
Like I always tell people I'm like I want to live in King City when I'm older. Like I don't know why King City. It's just like every single time I drive through there, I'm like, oh my God, I love their houses. I want to live here.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I think it depends where like I end up living. But I know some Catholic schools like aren't the greatest. Yeah. So I think it also depends on the funding of like the district. But
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, as long as it's not a bad school, it doesn't matter.
100%. Yeah. No, it's interesting too. Like the public school versus private school kind of argument. Obviously growing up in a public school, I always was like super pro public school. You know, you make fun of the kids that are at private school. I don't know if you had that, but that was kind of the jokes that we made as kids. But yeah, no, I think public school kind of helps students or helps kids kind of, you know, learn a bit about life, learn a bit about, you know, getting tough and that kind of thing. 'Cause you don't necessarily, you know, play with or see at recess the nicest or most prim and proper kids, whereas private school, maybe it's a bit more of that. I don't know. I didn't go to private school, but
like I was going to say at my school, like we had like a lot of rich kids. I feel like it's a trend that like, there's more likely, I mean, there's going to be rich kids everywhere, you know, but it makes you kind of think it's like if private school was so like high education wise and like all the rich kids would be going, you know, so it kind of makes you think is like, cause like, for example, like, Oakville is actually, they have like the highest density of like private schools, I think, in the province, right? And like there are some really good private schools there, but like it makes you think like if every single private school was good, then like a lot of people who have money would go towards it. But it makes you think it's like public school isn't bad either at all. But I mean, we don't live in the United States where like they're because I know in the United States like to go to Catholic school, it's like private school. Like you have to pay.
Oh, really?
It's not like publicly funded.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. So it makes you think like how different like education systems are too. Like even with like universities, like I know like U of T, like we get a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it makes you think like how different our like education is compared to like other universities. I'm sure like it's the same across the board. But like I know my friends, like my sister goes to Mac. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm like, this sounds so easy. Like she's in her first year. She's like, yeah, for one of my classes, I had to write an obituary for myself.
Oh my
I'm like, what is going on?
What kind of class is that?
They have me writing like a 15-page essay on some like topic I don't care about.
Yeah, U of T's been tough. Yeah, I guess we both kind of have an idea because we're at the very end of our stints. How has your experience been overall at U of T? If you had to comment on it for an incoming student maybe watching this, wanting to know a bit about the school.
Do not come here if you want to go to grad school. That's because I will say like I was originally going to go to Queens. I had a really big obsession with Queens in grade 12. Like it was mostly because I wanted to get away with from my family. And then I kind of sat there and I was like, it's probably better that I stay at home because if someone's end goal is grad school, then it makes more sense for you to live closer to home.
Why is that? Because
grad school is so much more expensive than undergrad, depending on like the type of, like if you're some master's programs, like depending how long your master's programs are, it's way more expensive than like 4 years of undergrad. If you're doing law school or like medical school, like it's super expensive, right? So you might as well, like I have a lot of friends who like they commute like to Scarborough or they commute to like downtown or like Mississauga and they live at home and they're going to grad school after. And like the thing is, it's like I think if you're planning to go to grad school, I don't think U of T is the best choice just because it's like it's really brutal. Like, you know, I have people who are like, oh, like St. George, they mark really hard. I'm like, it's the same all across the board. Like I've taken classes at Mississauga, I've taken classes at St. George, it's all across the board. Like all the TAs have like the same criteria to mark. And it kind of sucks too, because like I've had times where I've worked so hard on a paper, I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get minimum an 80 on it. I get it back, it's like a B. Like what did I do wrong? Or like the next assignment, you'll like implement the TA's like comments in it. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna do so great. I do even worse. I'm like, what did I do wrong?
Damn.
It's so hard, but that's not the same for everyone. Like I know people who do really good, but I think it just depends on your GPA and stuff. But you know, it's different at every school. You know, U of T is not a bad school at all. Like it's honestly really good, and like the quality of education is like really high. Yeah. Like I have a professor who like teaches at Harvard. I'm like, thank you for your knowledge, sir. But he's like super old. You have to like email him your we have to email our assignments to him. There's no Quarkus page. And we have to print out the assignment to him. Yeah. I don't know why.
That's funny. That's great, actually. I missed that. You know, this old time. Don't know how any of this shit works. Printed out on paper. That's hilarious.
I was like, oh, like, I remember because
the students don't even have printers.
Exactly. Like, I enrolled in the course late. I was like, oh, where's the Quarkus page? She's like, we're not using it. And I'm like, why? Yeah. So, like, you have to, like, print out the syllabus. I have no idea what's going on. But anyways, it's my last year. I couldn't care anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the assignments. Like, normally students can skip lecture just to do the assignments right on Quarkus, and then you have to show up to get the paper from this guy.
Yeah, but overall, like, U of T isn't a bad school. I think it just depends what you want. Like, I have friends who, like, go to Western. They love it. I have friends who go to, like, Team U. They like it. Yeah. And, like, also, every school has a different program. Like, they offer certain programs at U of T that they don't offer at other schools. So I think it depends what you want. But I was going to ask you, like, what do you think about U of T?
I think it's good. I think that, I mean, overall, just university in general, for me, I kind of lost a bit of, I don't want to say love. Like, I lost a bit of love for it maybe in first year, at the end of my first year, because it felt very much just like high school 2.0, which some people might disagree with. Obviously, you're in a new environment. I think that's been very helpful, just, you know, not necessarily like getting out of my house, because I obviously, you know, love my family. I wasn't trying to escape them, but I do think that, you know, being in a new environment, kind of being on your own, getting a bit of that independence has been very helpful. I wouldn't say the diversity has been like a crazy bonus, as we were talking about. I think it's a lot better when you fully immerse yourself into one culture rather than being surrounded by a bunch of people from different places. Like, not to say that there's zero value in that. Of course, even with this podcast, like, if you just scroll through the list of guests, it's like a bunch of people from different backgrounds, which is very great in terms of having like deep one-on-one conversations like this. But yeah, so I'd say just the independence, you get that from almost any university. And I just think that if U of T necessarily didn't meet my expectations in terms of what a university was supposed to be, then I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good that all the other universities might be, you know, kind of the same idea. I wasn't necessarily looking for like anything crazy, but it was just something different, you know. And to me, it seems like a very similar style to high school, which it's a bit of a more negative, you know, take. I wish I could say great things about it. Obviously, it's allowed me to grow over 4 years, but yeah, I guess just the idea of university in general was a little bit disappointing.
I would say I agree, because like I feel like even when people enter university, like I feel like it takes time for them to like develop into like actual university students, you know, because like when you enter university, you're straight out of high school, so you might have those like, I guess you could say like high school tendencies, you know. Like from where I started in university to like where I am now, like I think I'm like a completely different person. Like I've changed so much, you know. And I feel like university does mature you like in a really good way. Like regardless of what university you go to, like or not even university, just going to post-secondary in general, like even if you go to college, like it really matures you in like a really well-rounded manner. But I mean, I think it also depends on I mean, like there are definitely so many people out there who have university has not matured them, you know. But
what do you think about university? Sorry to cut you off. I just wondering, what do you think about university matures people?
Well, it's not like, for example, like I know so many people who like you're kind of forced to like grow up faster, you know. You have to like, because like in high school, it's like they kind of like hold your hand. You know what I mean? It's like if you hand in a late assignment, no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you'll get 5% off. They're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And like in university, you really have to learn like deadlines are strict. And there isn't a routine. Like you have to hold yourself accountable, you know?
Yeah.
And like in a sense, right? Like when you end up entering the workforce and you have a deadline, it's not like in high school where you can like dilly-daddle, you know, like not hand an assignment. Like you really have to be strict on schedules. And like I know a lot of people in university where it's like they have to support themselves, you know what I mean? They have to get a job and they have to pay their tuition and all that stuff. So in high school, it's like more easy for yourself because you're younger, you know, you're like a teenager, you're still a kid. But once you enter university, it's like you're technically like legally an adult, you know what I mean? And it's like you're surrounded by different people, and you're surrounded by people who are from like different ages too. Like I've had a class with like a person who was like 28. I had no idea that they were 28, you know? And it's interesting too because you get like different experience from them as well. So like overall, I would say university and just in general, like post-secondary matures you because of like the environment that you're put in. You know what I mean? Like you have to like mature for yourself because it's like it's for you. Like in university, like no one's there to hold your hand. You know what I mean? It's like you're there for yourself. Which I think is important because like for example, like my little brother's like in grade 11. He takes it like so carefree, you know, like he stays up until like 5 a.m. on a school night, like playing his video games, yelling, like cheats on all of his assignments. And I'm like, dude, like you can't do this in university. I'm like, you have to like, you know, he's like 16, like, you know what I mean? I don't expect him to be like the most mature type of guy, but I'm like, in university, you can't pull this shit off. Like, like if you cheat on your assignment, you're done for, you know? So it also kind of forces you, which also like on that matter, it's like, it is so amazing how so many people do not know how to do assignments based off of like, they just use AI. Like you're telling me you don't know how to write like an essay? And I don't think there's anything wrong like with using AI for like outlining an assignment or something or like asking it to like, I don't know, summarize a reading for you or something, you know? Cause like sometimes like I don't have time to like read like 80 pages, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with asking it to like critique your paper or something, you know? But if you're like asking it to like write like a whole essay for you, like you're going to get caught.
This is the thing though, is that, well, are they going to get caught though? This is the thing. ChatGPT has become so just like seamless, it seems. And I was talking about this with the president of Victoria College because she's like, she does research in AI and this kind of thing. And she's like, yeah, like we're going to have to adapt a little bit because this like software is producing about B- work, which is like to you know a very strong student. It's like, all right, I'm not going to use ChatGPT, but to like the average student who like let's say in the past would have like kind of floundered around like you said, maybe doesn't care about university and you know cheats on stuff. Now he goes from like a D student just barely passing to like get that grade to now he can just use ChatGPT and get a B-. And professors are having a harder time like finding what ChatGPT is. So like what would you say about that? Like because it is getting harder and harder to detect.
I think it is hard to detect, but usually like I know professors usually say it's usually easier for them to tell if you use it based off of how you like write. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's anything wrong with like writing something in your words and like asking it to like reword it, you know? Because sometimes the way people word stuff is just like horrible, you know? But like for example, this is actually really funny because like my brother, he took like summer school or something, and he wrote an entire essay on chat, and like the teacher was like, this is AI. Like she immediately knew. Maybe it's a little bit harder for university, especially if like the professor's like older, if they're like 77 or something. And also but I don't know, also it's interesting too because I feel like there's a lot of issues with Turnitin too. Like
what is Turnitin? That's like a detection software.
Yeah, it's like a detection software. Like if you hand in like I've noticed that not every single class uses it. Like there isn't an option for it to, but it basically detects like plagiarism or whatever. But I used it once in like high school, and like my teacher was like, if your score isn't lower than 10%, it's plagiarism. But like Turnitin will highlight the stupidest things. It'll highlight a number. It'll highlight like a subtitle.
I've seen that.
But in university, like, you know, they tell you, like, they're like, they actually say that people who, like, usually cheat with Turnitin, it doesn't matter if their score is low. They're like, people who don't cheat, like sometimes their score is just going to be high, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, because I think Turnitin is kind of like AI in a sense, like, you know, it scans stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's getting harder, but, I mean, AI is just, we're just in a new, like, world where, like, AI is becoming so normal, and I think it's going to take universities to adapt, but it's gonna be so much easier for them to like catch people, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the main thing for young people, I guess, is using AI as like a tool to kind of lift you up rather than a crutch. You know, it's like if you use AI to kind of mask your own stupidity, then that's kind of like it's gonna hurt you. Sure, you might get the grade, and maybe all you want is the grade, but like if we're thinking long term, hopefully, I'd like to think that University of Toronto students are invested in themselves, invested in their future. They don't want just this short-term get the degree and like survive mode, and maybe actually, sometimes considering their long-term flourishing. You gotta use it as a tool and make sure that those foundational skills that university students traditionally were expected to learn, you still, develop that so that you can be a competent human being going forward. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Half break. We're going to take a pause to let the cameras cool down, and we'll jump back into it. We are back, Jayda. Yes, exactly. That's right. Episode 99. Hopefully you're enjoying it so far. We were talking about, we were just talking about university in general, how it matures you, you know, that kind of thing. We'll try to pivot out of that, but in second year, I think that everyone realizes this. You were saying how, university matures you in a very important way. When the first years come in, when it's like a new school year and you see the first years coming in, I don't know if you've noticed this either, but it's like you can see the high school face on some of these students. I don't know what happens, but university in first year absolutely whoops people's ass because for some reason, like their whole, I don't know if it's their energy or whatever, but in high school, they look a bit like September first year, new kids look completely baby face and young. And then by second year, they're like wrecked from whatever, the stress that is U of T. I don't know if this happens at other schools, but I'm sure it does. Yeah. So we were talking about off camera. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about transit. Let's talk about the Toronto transit system. Toronto Transit Commission, TTC.
If I'm on the subway, I try to sit with like other people. Like I don't try to sit alone. I think even regardless of gender, like even if you're a man, I think you should sit with other people. You do not know what's going on. It was really funny because I got off at Union once and like there's a man holding a lighter and he started like yelling at me and I was like, I need to run away.
That's awful. What goes through your head in that situation? So I know that you say that it is different. It doesn't matter if like for whatever gender, but I'd have to think like that is something that I hear more from my girlfriend. She's like, I make sure to sit with people. That's not something I necessarily think of. For me, it's more just like I need to see what's going on. Mm-hmm. If I'm aware of everybody, then I'm okay. This is why I don't like going on the subway in rush hour. And this is an interesting thing to talk about because like that is maybe two sides of a coin there where some people are more comfortable on a busy subway because, it's like no one can try to like mess with you and not get caught. 'Cause if they try to hurt you, it's like there's literally 40 other people around that can see it versus like wanting to be on there where it's empty so that you can see everything. The issue for me when it's a super crowded subway, like I was riding the subway maybe a month ago with my girlfriend and it was packed. It was like bodies all around you. Like you weren't moving. No, like the subway would stop at a station and new people couldn't get on just because there was literally no room. And that situation for me is a lot more stressful than the empty subway just because I can't be completely aware. There's a guy standing like literally like his chest is on my back. I can't look at him while looking at the guy in front of me. Like something could just happen and everyone's just so stuck together where even if someone was like crazy or wanted to hurt somebody, you couldn't run away. How are you going to run away? There's a whole crowd. It's going to be a stampede. So that's interesting. But no, for you, some guy comes up to you with a lighter, screams at you. What goes through your head in that situation?
I like walk as fast as possible. I pull out my phone. The first thing I do is like I text my boyfriend. I'm like, some man just like yelled at me. Like it's also hard because like when you text other people, it's like they can't really do much. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know. You kind of just learn to ignore it. Like I've had like so many weird people just yell things at me. I just mind my own business, you know? And, like, I agree, like, rush hour subway is disgusting. But I feel like when it's, like, moderately busy where, like, you can sit down or, like, stand up, it's good, you know? Like, but, like, usually the first thing I do when I get on the subway is, like, I scan. I'm like, where should I sit? Like, where are there a bunch of people? I do that, too, at night. But I found, like, I didn't have to do that when I went to London. Because it was just consistent, you know? Like,
interesting.
There wasn't, like, there wasn't, like, a time where it was, like, there's, like, a dude yelling on the tube, you know? And I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if they're more strict about, like, people getting on the subway or something. Because, I mean, there's a lot, you know? Like, London's really big. But even in, like, downtown, like, central London, like, where the Big Ben is, like, no bad experience. Like, it's honestly really good.
Yeah. Very interesting. Like you said, when you're texting someone, it's not like they can necessarily do something, but you at least want someone to be kind of aware of your situation there. I think that a cool thing I've seen, I don't know if this is like very functional, but it's like these videos on Instagram of like a voice call. It's like, save this if you ever feel uncomfortable in an Uber, and you like play it out loud, and it's like this guy with a deep voice. So it's like a girl can play it as if she has like a big strong boyfriend that's like talking to her, and the Uber, if he wants to try anything crazy, is like, oh, gets scared. I don't know, I don't know if that necessarily apply, because once again, you're not necessarily dealing with like people in the best state of mind on the subway when you are in these like pretty rough encounters. It's like the main thing you're just worried about is not like setting them off, you know? You just try to, like you said, walk away, ignore them. Some guys get all like, try to get all macho and tough and be like, I'll go punch you in the face. So like, good luck punching him in the face. He's going to bounce right up because he's wired on meth or whatever, and bring out a blade, stab you in the face. This is not a business that I want to get into. I prefer, I'm walking away. I'm not even looking at this person. Obviously make sure you're aware of what they're going to do in case they try to lunge at you. But yeah, it's tough out there. That's something that you got to think about. You got to pick your fights. Something that I thought was interesting is at the start of this school year, I was walking with my dad, mom, and girlfriend. And this is something that I considered even before this happened, but my dad, very, very, you know, strong on raising me and my brother to be gentlemen, you know, traditional gentlemanly rules. And one of the important ones is you walk on the side of the street when you're with a girl. That's like a classic one. Everyone knows that. Now the issue with downtown Toronto in some of the shadier areas is that you don't necessarily know if the bigger threat comes from the street side or the walkway side. Because the idea is that obviously a car could kill you, right? So you want to be on the side of the street because you don't want your girlfriend to get hit by a car. Whereas the issue in Toronto is that who poses a bigger threat? Is it the drivers on the street, or is it these homeless? I'm not trying to diss on the homeless. I'm not trying to be rude. Like, you know what I mean? There's just certain people who are not in the best states of mind with a shank or who are on something and could try to pick a fight. This is what I was talking about, picking the right fights. So I have always been of the mind that depending on the area you're in, if you're in a nicer area, obviously take the street side, but in the shadier areas, I tend to take the walkway side because the people pose a bigger threat. I was doing this. I was saying to my dad, I was like, listen, this is my whole idea. He's like, that's completely wrong. You have to take the street side. I was like, I'm taking the walkway side because of this thing I just explained to you. And literally less than 15 minutes later, we're walking on the street, and this guy who's like obviously not all there is like coming up. He's like, give me a hug. And he's like, whoa. It's like this guy's got like basically his chest out. Like he's got a jacket but no buttons or zipper. Tries to give a hug to me, right? Because I was on the walkway side. My girlfriend's on the other side. He's obviously going to be coming for both of us. And it's like, sorry, bro. You kind of, you know, keep your hand out, push him back a little bit, let him go by. I look back to my dad. I would never say to my dad, I told you so, because he kicked my ass. But it was basically just like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. He's like, okay, I understand. But yeah, you're a football fan. Are you a fan of any other sports by chance?
I love baseball.
Yeah.
I got MLB The Show, like 24, like the video game.
Yeah.
I'm very deep into it. I want to get the new one, but I can't justify like $100 on it right now.
Fair.
Especially because I just bought a PlayStation 5.
Yep.
Wanted to play on my little games.
There are many young people I feel are getting interested into baseball. I feel like it gets criticized a lot for being like an older generation sport. But I like that you like it. It's like, what about baseball are you interested in?
It's interesting because people are like, oh, it's boring. But I feel like there's
Yeah.
so many other boring sports out there. But it also depends on the team you watch, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're watching like, not to diss the Jays or anything, but you know, like I went to a game once. I don't remember which team they were playing against, but they lost so bad.
Yeah.
People started leaving. Like that's when it like gets boring, you know. But it's just really good when you have like good players and good teams, and they play really good plays too.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think it depends like the team you watch and like the players too. But I honestly love it, and I also think it's like a easier game to understand. Like it took me a really long time to understand football.
Yeah,
like I didn't understand anything.
I still don't understand football, if I'm being honest.
Like I just know the basics and that's it. And like I used to be like a big Oilers fan when I was younger.
Yep.
And like hockey's pretty easy to understand too, but I feel like the easier a game is to understand, like I think the more fun it is. And people might disagree with that, and they're like, "Oh, football's so easy," but like I used to watch like football for dummies. Like it was a girl explaining football to other girls because I was like, I don't know, like you need to explain this to me in terms that I understand.
Yeah.
But I'll usually watch any sport. But I think like the sport I probably like am invested in the most is like baseball. Like when I go to Denver, like I'm seeing like a Colorado Rockies game. Like but I wasn't always into baseball. Like I really got into baseball because of my boyfriend. And I'm also getting into football because of him. It's like you know, I want to engage in his hobbies, you know.
Absolutely. That's great.
But I'm not gonna like root for like the Cardinals or anything.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna pick my own team.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of nice because then I kind of realize like, oh, I like this sport, you know.
100%. Yeah. So you're going to Colorado this summer.
Yeah.
Are you doing like, are you trying to, you know, some people take a gap year to like find themselves or this kind of thing, or for work reasons? Like, why are you going to Colorado specifically?
Well, I told them I was like, oh, I think we should like go to like a baseball game in like the U.S.
Yeah.
Because like Toronto's the only Canadian team, right?
Right.
And we were throwing out a couple places. I was like, oh, maybe we should go to Florida. And he's like, oh, like the Tampa Bay Rays aren't playing at their like stadium because it got destroyed because of the hurricane. I was like, what about New York? He's like, I don't want to go to New York, which is like fair, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, what about Colorado? And I was like, okay, sure. And like, I'm glad we picked Colorado. Like Colorado is like a really nice state. And like, one of the things that I wanted to do was go hiking.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough time there. But I think one of my favorite activities that we're going to do, have you seen South Park before?
I know it. I haven't seen every show or anything, but
it's such a good show. And there was an episode because it's based off of Colorado, like in Colorado.
Okay.
And they had an episode called Casa Bonita.
Okay.
Where the main characters go to this restaurant called Casa Bonita, and I searched it up, and it's a real restaurant.
Nice.
And they have like a massive like character model of like one of the main characters, Eric Cartman, in it, and like everything that was in the episode was in it. Like they have like divers who like jump off of like a cliff into a pool. They have like a cave of like treasure chests in it. I'm like, oh my god, we have to go here.
Yeah.
Like I will spend all my money here. We're hitting In-N-Out. I'm so excited to try In-N-Out.
Yeah.
I've never had it. We're going to the zoo. I haven't been to the zoo in like probably like 15 years.
Nice.
Can't wait to see all the animals.
Sounds like a fun summer.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only trip I have planned. Maybe like I have like a cottage trip to go to, but like apart from that, it's like also traveling's really expensive. Like, but
it's good though. I think it's useful. A lot of people talk about how like traveling just opens up their mind to the different possibilities of the world and this kind of thing. I haven't done much traveling. Well, it's hard to say, you know, it's relative. Depends who you talk to. I feel like everyone I talk to at U of T has been all over the world, but I've been to like 4 countries. So Canada would be one. Mm-hmm. Canada, US, Mexico, and then Dominican Republic I've been to. And yeah, like I think it's nice to kind of, like you say, gauge in other cultures like fully, you know, not in a way that's kind of broken up into pieces, but it's like you are going to the US, these are all Americans.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to Mexico, you're trying to buy Mexicans.
Yeah.
It's this kind of thing. So are you big on travel, like overall, other than your trip to Colorado? Like, are you going to Colorado because it's like travel is really important, or is it just more of a...
It's just more like for fun, you know? Yeah. But like, I will say like, I've been to like a lot of countries, I will say. I like I don't know why, but like for example, like I've been to Mexico before, right? Like I've been to a resort, but that's only within like in a resort, right? Usually when you go to like countries like Mexico or like the Dominican or Cuba or like really those like resort areas, you're usually just contained to like the resort, right? So it's hard to like experience like the culture. But when you go somewhere like Europe or something, like you're really like immersed in the culture, which is like really important too. That's a good point. Like I spent like a month abroad because I did like a summer abroad with like U of T. Like I got a course credit and everything, and I went to like London for a month. That's why I was explaining like the London Tube. And I loved the UK so much. Their food, questionable. I don't like English breakfast. I think it's disgusting. Yeah. But, like, it was so much fun. And I considered moving there, but I was like, it's way too expensive. But, like, even so, like so many countries in Europe, it's not even, like, Europe itself. Like, going to a bunch of different countries are, like, it's just important, too. Like, I don't know. I feel like people who haven't been to enough countries or haven't experienced different cultures outside of like, because obviously a culture that you're going to experience in Canada is different than a culture that you'll experience in that country, you know what I mean? Right, yeah. Like Italian culture, for example, in Canada is so much different than Italian culture in like actual Italy. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it makes you appreciate a culture more, I think, and it's like, and it's good to just be immersed, you know what I mean? And I feel like people who aren't properly, I guess, exposed to cultures maybe don't have like the right I don't know how to word it. Like I don't know how to word it.
It's harder to,
but their mindset is more different, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Back from another short break. So, talked a bit about your summer plans, your gap year. You're thinking of maybe hopefully going into law school after that. Mm-hmm. What got you into political science?
Well, law school specifically, I don't even remember why. Like, it was really weird. Like, when I was 12, I was like, oh, I want to go to law school. And that was just, like,
when you were 12?
Thing. Yeah, when I was 12. It was so random. It was, like, I was in the car. My parents were, like, my parents are really weird. Like, I have, like, immigrant parents. So they're, like, you have to figure out what you want to do, like, when you go to high school. Like, this is really important. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm 12. And I was like, oh, I want to be a lawyer. They're like, okay, great. And I was, like, because, like, I come from a family where, like, they're, like, and, like, they're accountants or they're, like, engineers or, like, you know, something really math-wise, and I'm like, I'm horrible at math. Like, I failed math twice in high school. I'm like, I can't do it. And this was, like, academic math. I was like, I can't do it. Yeah. So, I don't even, like, I think that was probably the reason why I liked law. I mean, I took, like, law classes in high school, and I really liked it. But, like, in terms of political science, like, I don't know. I just like learning about politics, you know? Like, even just, like, I wouldn't say talking about it, but, like, discussing about it. Because, like, in political science, like, everyone has, like, a different range of, like, opinions and beliefs and values. And, like, especially I would say, like, in political science, you kind of learn to, like, accept that. You know what I mean? Because, like, not everyone, like, can tolerate other, like, opinions, you know? Right. But, like, it definitely helps you to, like, see two sides of the story. Yeah. And just, like, I just like learning about it. I mean, there are, like, aspects of political science that I don't like, because there's, like, different, I guess you could say, like, branches. Like, I guess I would say, like, my favorite one is, like, Canadian politics. Like, I think that's super interesting, and, like, American politics. But, like, for example, like, international relations, I hate. I think it's so boring. Like, I could not care.
What specifically about, like, what do you learn in international relations?
Like, we learn about, like, different theories and how they're applied to, like, the real world. So, like, they'll be, like, I can't remember. Like, for example, they're like, oh, how's, like, a realist perspective? Like, I don't even remember what that is, if I'm going to be honest with you. But they're like, how is this, like, applied to, like, the United States? And I'm like, I don't remember what that even is. And, like, it's just, like, a lot of discussions, as an example, about, like, global politics and, like, the world and what. And I'm like, I literally don't care.
Maybe I shouldn't have asked you about your least favorite category. Maybe talk a bit about what you actually like. Because if you asked me my least favorite category about economics, it'd be like, yeah, I really dislike this. It's like, why do you dislike this? And it's just like, well, I don't understand it, so I can't really go into it much. You know, I don't really care to learn for it. But the stuff that you actually are interested in, if you had to dive into that, Canadian politics, like specifically, what about it?
I really like Canadian politics because it's also, like, in a sense, it's kind of nice to, like, because, like, a lot of people, for example, like, don't understand how our government works, which is, like, crazy, you know?
Yeah, I actually, like, I know maybe some basics, but I'm also very interested in learning, like, the details of what goes on. So, like, what do people not understand about Canadian politics?
So like, for example, right? For example, like people will like blame certain issues on the prime minister that it's actually like the issues of like a premier, right? So like, for example, like when like Justin Trudeau was like prime minister, you know, people would be like, oh, this is his fault because of doing this, this, and this. But then when you actually study like Canadian politics as an example, not even like grade 10 civics, grade 10 civics is very like basic, you know.
Yeah.
But like when you actually like really go deep into it, you realize like a lot of like responsibilities doesn't actually fall onto like the prime minister. It's actually the premiers. So like, for example, when people in Ontario are like, oh, this is Justin Trudeau's fault, it's like, no, it's actually like Doug Ford's fault as an example, right? Because like everyone has like a specific not that I'm blaming anyone, you know, but you know what I mean? Like, there's just specific like responsibilities that people don't understand. And like, I feel like a lot of people in Canada have like a mindset that it's like American politics, you know, like, a lot of things that happen in our country, like federally, provincially, they blame federally. And it's like, you don't even have to take a Canadian politics class in university. Like, they have like YouTube videos online. Like, if you read the news, they'll give you like a better understanding. But it's just interesting to like better learn how like our government functions, you know. I've never taken like an American politics class in university just because it didn't count as a requirement. So I was like, I'm not gonna take it. I'm not gonna bother. But I think it's interesting, and it's better for me to like learn about our country and how it functions. And
absolutely,
even if I'm not gonna like work in the government, I think it's like important information to know, regardless of the political party you vote for. You know what I mean? Like, if you vote Liberal or Conservative or NDP or PPC or whatever party you want, like, I think it's important to understand how the government functions, because then you can vote for a party that best aligns with your interests, you know.
100%.
Like, federally or provincially. But like, even then, like, a lot of like, for example, like our Ontario like Conservative government is way different than like the federal one, you know what I mean? People also don't like know that either. Like, they think it's the same. So
what's the thing that you were talking about, like, that people might think is federal, but they think is federal, but it's actually provincial. Yeah.
So like, for example, like healthcare as an example. People are like, oh, healthcare is like super bad because of like Justin Trudeau. You know, Mark Carney's now prime minister. So, you know, however, because we're supposed to have an election soon. So however that ends up, and maybe if he becomes prime minister, maybe it's going to be like the same result that people think of, right? But like, for example, like healthcare, like the federal government gives each provincial government money towards healthcare. So for example, they give like a certain billion amount to like Ontario. And that money's supposed to be specifically used towards healthcare. You know what I mean? It's just like how they give money for like education and all these other responsibilities. But, you know, as an example, people are like, oh, you know, like, why are wait times so long in like the hospital? It's like, because that money is not being like properly used towards healthcare. You know what I mean? Like, usually that money should be used towards like getting more nurses. That cuts wait times down. A lot of hospitals in like northern and rural, oh my god, I can't say that word.
Rural?
Yeah. Ontario are like shutting down, like the ERs are shutting down. So it's just like, and honestly, that's not even something you need to take a Canadian politics class for. You can go online and go, what are the responsibilities for federal and provincial?
Yeah.
You'll get like an AI overview, and then you'll like know, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's also interesting because like every single party like functions differently in the country. Like the NDP party is like really popular in like BC, but the Conservative Party isn't. And like here, like the Conservative Provincial Party is super popular, and like others aren't. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. No. 100%. Something that I'm just thinking of on the spot here is like, when the federal government makes decisions. This is something that I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on. Some of their decisions have such an impact on the whole country that they can affect like provincial economies. Yeah. So like, let's say for something, I don't know, as simple as healthcare, the provincial governments get funding for their hospitals, right?
Yeah.
But if if the federal government has policies that, let's say, is hurting the Canadian economy so that they don't have the right amount of money to even fund the hospitals with, do you see how some policies, how some responsibilities, as you're saying, federal, provincial have different responsibilities, can kind of like leak into each other, where it's like something that a provincial government does could positively or negatively affect the federal and vice versa?
Yeah, most definitely. Like as we know, like for example, usually when, like for example, right, like when we have a recession, right, or there's decreased spending, right, so people aren't paying taxes as much, especially like if you lose your job. Like I don't think you get taxed on EI, right?
I don't know.
I'm not sure, but like, you know, our governments get money from like taxes, you know, so the less taxes there are, the less money the federal government gets, and then that money that they get goes towards the provincial governments, and it does leak into each other, you know what I mean? Like everything's like connected to each other, especially like money, you know what I mean? Like even like municipalities, like technically like municipalities aren't even a thing. Like the premier can, what municipality is Orangeville under?
Dufferin County.
Yeah, so like for example, like Doug Ford can say this municipality doesn't exist anymore, he can get rid of it, and then Orangeville has to be meshed into a new municipality.
Right.
So, and they get all their money from like property taxes and like parking tickets and a bunch of like other stuff, you know what I mean? So it definitely does leak into each other, and that's like a really important thing that you said, because that's not even something that I even thought about.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's really interesting because like I get kind of like hesitant to talk about politics, because especially with like, you know, the political climate we're in, it's like people aren't comfortable talking about it.
Yeah.
But especially in like political science, you know, you learn to like actually have like a conversation. Like
that's good.
I've never like once been in a class where like someone's attacking another person. You know what I mean? Like politics is nice to talk about when it's like an actual like conversation. You know what I mean? It's really awful to talk about when it's just like no one's listening, everyone's yelling at each other, and
personal attacks.
Yeah, personal attacks. It's just like, because at the end of the day, like politics, it's all about like differing opinions and values and beliefs, right? And that's something we have to deal with either way. You know what I mean? Regardless of like politics itself.
100%. How do you think, if you had to like, I guess, give someone advice on how to have a more cordial political conversation, what would you tell them?
So like, for example, my boyfriend and I, like we have different political beliefs, right? So for example, like I'm more left-leaning on like the political scale, and he's probably like more moderate, like more like in the middle, you know what I mean? And there are things that we agree with, and there are things that we don't agree with, but usually when we have like a conversation about politics, it's like we both hear each other out and we try to understand where both sides come from. But the thing is, you don't have to agree with each other, you know? We'll have like a discussion, and like it was a really good talk, we got to hear both sides of the story, but that doesn't mean we agree with each other, you know what I mean? I think it's also hard because people think in politics you have to agree with each other, and you don't. What's important is that like you understand both sides and how that can formulate your mindset, because like there have been times where I'm like, oh, you know, I've never thought about that, but I'm like, I don't agree with it, but that's something interesting to bring up, you know what I mean? But I bring him up as an example because like I would say like my friends and I were very like similar political beliefs wise. Not probably all of us, not on everything, you know what I mean? But you know, I mean, also a lot of people are like, you know, I could never date someone with different political beliefs than me, which is like fair, you know, like that's a personal preference. But it's like not really like a crazy issue for me. I think it's more of like an issue once like, you know, if you're like too crazy, you know? But like, I mean, it's also kind of nice to have like a different opinion.
100%. Yeah, you grow from it. I think that when it comes to relationships, like when it's something like family, it's like it's kind of, you can't really escape that. But in terms of someone you date, because I did ask that question, I was wondering if I could maybe pull it up. Let's see what the results were. I asked that question like right before or right after the U.S. election, and I was saying like, obviously the people that follow VoV are university students. So I was asking like, would you date someone, or would you, you know, be in a relationship with someone who has different political beliefs than you, or who votes different than you, is what I said, I think. Who votes differently than you. And I'm pretty sure that most people said no, that they wouldn't date someone like that. But I want to find the exact results just so I'm not speaking out of line.
I was going to say definitely. I think also like the political country is different because, like, for example, like, I could never personally date, like, a Trump supporter, you know? I think that's just me personally, you know?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who wouldn't. I know there's probably a lot of Trump supporters who wouldn't date Democrats. I think it's more different in Canada just because I feel like our politics are more, like, lighter and not, like, as intense, you know what I mean? But even so, like, I like the fact, like, me and my boyfriend, like, we agree on a lot of things. I feel like a lot of things that we probably disagree on are, like, economics wise.
Yeah.
Which is fair, you know, everyone has a different opinion on economics. I know you probably have, like, I don't know, like, what do you think? Because I know you're, like, an econ major.
I guess just overall, like, my belief is in free markets. Like, I think when the governments try to necessarily get their hands involved in too much stuff, it doesn't go too well.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have their role. I think there are a bunch of people who are like absolutely like free market absolutists, like get rid of the government basically. But I think that history has proven that doesn't necessarily work. You need kind of, you know, some coordination. You need people speaking on behalf of the group. It's just finding that right balance. But in general, yeah, free markets, I think the governments are wildly inefficient for the most part. But sorry, no, I was just this here. So, okay, most people said yes. So I said, would you date someone who votes differently than you? And 17 votes for yes, 11 for no. So it was like a 60-40 split percentage wise. And I think my main takeaway from that is like, it depends. It's like I'm on yes and no. It really depends on the state of the, like you said, the state of the political climate. U.S. is a lot hotter than Canada, but I think in general for politics, the main issue is understanding what problems apply to the family, like what problems really impact the household. If you're not aligned on certain things that are gonna divide the husband and the wife, I think that the issues that impact the family, I can think of some political problems where the husband and the wife maybe should be aligned. Yeah. But like stuff like Russia, Ukraine, I think for most families that isn't like a huge problem that's going to affect you directly, you know? Yeah. Back at it with Jayda here. I don't want to keep you too long. Do you have anything planned after this? Am I keeping you from anything?
Finish my essay.
Okay.
That is one day late.
There you go.
And then start another one.
Okay. It's a busy time.
Very busy time, unfortunately.
So it's been a great conversation. If you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience, please do.
Nothing's coming to mind, honestly.
Nothing's coming to mind?
Oh, no.
Okay. I guess we can wrap up. It's been a good conversation. I think a good thing to end off with, which is kind of related to the politics. We were talking off camera about the importance of like coming into a conversation with you know, an intent to learn, and how, you know, communicating what you believe is actually a little bit more difficult than you might think. A lot of the things that we believe are really based on intuition. If you ever tried to sit down and write it out to understand why you think what you think, it's not exactly the easiest task. Yeah. And yeah, I think that, you know, coming into a conversation as if the person you're speaking to has something you can learn from, you can has something that you can take away from them, is always a great, you know, strategy, or always a great approach to a conversation. Yeah, so, I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Jayda Amer, episode 99. We will see you next Sunday. You can follow us on Instagram at Voices of Vic. Next Sunday would be episode 100. So tune into that, and peace out.